This video was brought to you by Incogni. Since October 7th, there have been near-daily exchanges of rocket and missile fire between Israel and Lebanon-based Hezbollah. This has largely been contained to northern Israel and southern Lebanon, but these exchanges of fire seem to be escalating, and Israel has been striking deeper and deeper into Lebanon. So many are concerned about the potential for things to escalate into a full-scale war. And that could be devastating for Lebanon, which has been enduring a deep economic and political crisis for around 5 years now. So in this video, we're going to explain what's been going on between Israel and Lebanon since October 7th, the potential for escalation, and why Lebanon can't really afford it. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. It's worth beginning by explaining what Hezbollah, or the Party of God, actually is, because they're often described by many labels, like political party, terrorist organization, militant group, or Iranian proxy. In the early 1980s, amid the chaos of the Lebanese civil war, Hezbollah emerged in southern Lebanon, inspired and backed by Iran's Islamic Revolution, and out of opposition to Israel's invasion and occupation of southern Lebanon. Eventually, after a persistent guerrilla campaign, Israel withdrew in 2000. But then, years later, in 2006, the two sides fought again in a short but destructive 34-day war, in which Hezbollah fought Israel to a standstill, something that helped them solidify their reputation as the region's premier anti-Israel movement. Hezbollah's arsenal has only grown since then though, with the group estimated to have upwards of 150,000 rockets and being described as the world's most heavily armed non-state actor, thanks to some significant support from Iran. Hezbollah is also a political party though, wielding significant influence in Lebanese politics, and having been described as effectively operating as a state within a state, with the group controlling a lot of Lebanon's Shia majority areas, like southern Beirut and parts of southern and eastern Lebanon. Anyway, in the wake of October 7th, Hezbollah, an ally of Hamas, almost immediately began firing rockets at Israel. And since then, the two sides have been trading cross-border rocket fire on a near-daily basis. As a result, some 80,000 Israelis and 75,000 Lebanese have been displaced from northern Israel and southern Lebanon. Israeli strikes have also killed nearly 200 Hezbollah fighters and almost 50 civilians in Lebanon, while attacks from Lebanon have killed a dozen Israeli soldiers and 6 civilians. Now, things have been largely contained to these border areas, but Israel has started to strike deeper into Lebanon. On February 26th, Israel struck targets near the city of Baalbek in Lebanon's eastern Bekaa Valley, a Hezbollah stronghold, marking their furthest strikes inside Lebanon since the start of the current conflict, reportedly in retaliation against Hezbollah shooting down an Israeli drone over southern Lebanon. Now, it's worth pointing out that this recent Israeli strike is only the latest in a series of strikes pushing deeper into Lebanon. Earlier this month, Israeli airstrikes hit the coastal city of Sidon, and more notably in January, Israel carried out a targeted strike in a Beirut suburb, killing a senior Hamas leader. But before we talk about any potential escalation, we're going to briefly explain Lebanon's ongoing economic, financial, and political crisis that began in 2019, predating today's conflict. And if you want to know more about this, then you should watch our video from last year explaining the roots of the crisis. To sum it up in a few numbers though, GDP per capita dropped by 36.5% between 2019 and 2021. The Lebanese pound has totally collapsed, losing more than 98% of its pre-crisis value by February 2023. The country has been suffering triple-digit inflation since 2020, and by 2023, an estimated 80% of the population lived below the poverty line. In fact, the World Bank has called it among the worst economic crises globally since the mid-19th century. Essentially then, to ensure the inflow of foreign currencies, the Lebanese banking system in the 2010s effectively ran a national Ponzi scheme, offering remarkably high interest rates to those depositing US dollars against which the Lebanese pound was pegged. Banks used these newly deposited dollars to pay the high interest rates on older dollars, and so on. This was obviously unsustainable and began unraveling in 2018, forcing the central bank to burn through its foreign currency reserves while banks restricted customers' withdrawals of their own money. Unpopular tax proposals fueled further social unrest. The pandemic also hit hard, and then in August 2020, an enormous explosion in Beirut's port, which was previously responsible for 60% of all of Lebanon's imports, killed at least 218 people and caused billions of dollars of further damage. Amid all of this economic chaos, Lebanese politics is dysfunctional. Parliamentary deadlock has left Lebanon without a president since November 2022, while Prime Minister Najib Mikati's government remains in office in a caretaker capacity. And all of this is before October 7th, and unsurprisingly, the trajectory since then has been negative. Before October 7th, the World Bank projected that the Lebanese economy might actually grow in 2023, albeit by just 0.2%, but nevertheless suggested that it had reached its floor and could start to recover. But with the onset of the conflict, the World Bank now estimates that real GDP in 2023 contracted by 0.6 to 0.9%. with significant damage coming as a result of a decline in tourism, which made up a big chunk of the Lebanese economy, and which was earlier experiencing a bit of a boom in 2023. However, since the conflict erupted, there's been a significant drop in tourism as airlines cut their flights and foreign governments advise citizens not to travel to the area. So evidently, even though the conflict has so far remained relatively contained, the impact on Lebanon has not been good. As such, any significant escalation towards a full-scale war could be devastating. According to a World Bank report, on top of what would likely be a large human toll, a significant escalation could lead to a severe and long-lasting impact on Lebanon's already weak infrastructure, and would also permanently scar Lebanon's growth potential and carry grave economic implications. In fact, it's estimated that the economic cost would materially exceed that of the 2006 conflict. That's because, compared to 2006, Lebanon has a smaller capacity to rebuild itself due to the already weak position of the state, its institutions, and its finances. So, what is the actual prospect of escalation? Well, Hezbollah's words and actions so far suggest that its leadership and its Iranian backers are not keen to escalate the conflict. In the case of Israel, though, there has been some fiery rhetoric, and it's clear that many in Israel prefer a situation in which Hezbollah is driven out from the area near the border by agreement or by force. Nevertheless, like Hezbollah, Israeli authorities say that they are not seeking to escalate the conflict. Nothing Israel has done so far has crossed the line for Hezbollah, and even though Israeli forces are striking deeper into Lebanon, these strikes remain limited and targeted. Plus, the US, Israel's staunchest ally, has been pushing hard to avoid a full-scale war. The problem is that even if one or both sides don't want things to escalate, every rocket and missile fired is another opportunity for a misstep or miscalculation that could lead to an escalation. Clearly then, the current state of the world is plagued by uncertainty and risk. And even while you've been watching this video about Lebanon, your personal information may have been sold or published online without you even knowing about it. Even while recording videos, we're constantly interrupted by robocalls. And if you're wondering why you've been getting so many random numbers calling your phone, well, the answer is the malevolent workings of shady forces called data brokers. These data brokers can collect and sell your personal information to anyone, from a company to an online criminal. This data can include your name and aliases, social security number, login credentials, home address, location history, online activity, and more. Even if you're not fussed about a phone call here or there, one day it could be a little call, but the next day a huge loan taken out in your name. In fact, that exact thing happened to me a few years ago. So if you want to protect your data, Incogni is here to help. Incogni reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and deals with any objections from their side. Since many data brokers continue collecting your personal information even after they've removed it, Incogni also takes care that your data stays off the market by conducting repeated removal requests. So create an account with our link in the description, grant Incogni the ability to work on your behalf, and sit back as they make you safer. Plus, if you use our link in the description, you'll get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Thanks for checking it out, and thanks to Incogni for sponsoring this video.